Right, we're going to start in this segment with taking a quick look back. In the wake of the 2020 U.S. election, Donald Trump began a public campaign to convince Americans that the election was stolen from him and that it couldn't happen again in 2024. And that set in motion a movement that saw Republican supporters take it upon themselves to make sure that votes were, quote, protected and that election integrity was maintained. But what did that look like and what does it mean? Joining us this morning is Kim Wyman. She's a senior fellow at the Bipartisan Policy Center. Kim is also the former Washington Secretary of State and served as the senior election security advisor for the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency under the Department of Homeland Security. I got through all of it.
You did.
Welcome, Kim. Great to have you here.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Trump stoked. Oh, is my mic? My mic has fallen, everybody. Welcome to Live Television. Kim, I'm going to get you to hang tight there while I pick that up. All right. Here we go. This is what happens when we're live on the set.
No worries.
Let's get back to the point I was making, though. Trump stoked fear throughout this election that this voting process was not to be trusted and that the 2020 election was stolen from him. Will we finally see this conversation put to bed?
I hope so. I hope so. Election officials have really been under intense scrutiny for 4 years. There has been a drumbeat and a nonstop narrative that the election in 2020 was rigged, when in fact it was the most secure election and the most accurate election officials have ever conducted, and we did it in a global pandemic. So it did strengthen the resolve, I think, and they were ready for yesterday.
Yeah, something that stood out throughout this entire campaign was, of course, the discourse of not trusting the process. And man, watching this from up in Canada, I thought, this is a democracy that the world looks to. And when you can't even trust the key element of that, which is the vote, the most powerful part of that whole process, how do you restore faith in that age-old system? Like, is it permanently being questioned?
Well, it's always been questioned, and that's a healthy part of democracy. Any democracy should be questioning how their election is run. I think what we've seen since 2016, however, is foreign adversaries throwing gasoline on the fire. And they are a big part of that disinformation that we've seen since 2016, but certainly since 2020. And they're stoking those fires because they want Americans to be fighting against each other. They want to undermine people's confidence in our democratic institutions. So they've been very effective in that, adding gasoline to the fire of the frustrated Trump voters.
Well, there is foreign interference for sure, but there is also the man who is now about to walk back to the White House who is also stoking those fears.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, Trump and Trump supporters for 4 years have been calling into question the election. And, I have colleagues that have, myself included, who've had death threats and who've had physical threats of violence against us. It's been a very emotionally intense experience. But I think what's come of it is election officials were ready for yesterday.
Yeah.
They had secured the process. They had been very transparent. I think the way they rebuilt confidence is talking about the nitty-gritty of how they account for every ballot, just like a bank accounts for money. And I think Bipartisan Policy Center just did a survey that confirmed that. We're seeing an increase in that confidence, and I hope that the election results are going to help that a little bit.
I want to talk about concern. So there was a lot of concern about what happens if he declares. What happens if he's declared president? So we're in that moment right now. And just behind us, there is the White House. And when you're down on the ground, they're already building the platforms for inauguration. And that security fence is going to be up into January. What are your concerns between today and inauguration?
Well, we have a long way to go. Election officials are still going to certify the elections and all of that. And I think right now many people are stunned, very much like 2016. And then that, what we saw in 2016 is that turned to anger and frustration. And I hope that doesn't happen, but I think we have to brace for that, and we have to anticipate we could have violence in the streets, and hopefully cooler heads will prevail. And at the end of the day, this is an established democracy. It's almost going to be 250 years old, and it's weathered worse. And so it's going to be a bumpy ride, but I hope that things are going to work out well.
Kim Wyman, real pleasure to have you here this morning. Great conversation. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
If you liked that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.